Hello, hi Michael. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to show you how to install laminate flooring. So before we get started on the laminate flooring, we need to make sure we have the proper tools. And so we have a mallet. This is, I call it a Z-bar. It's just a metal Z-shaped piece with felt on one end so you can lay it against the vinyl or the laminate and install. This is the block, and these are the spacers that go around the perimeter of the laminate flooring. And there you go. That's the tools that we're needing. This is actually all the tools that we're going to need to do all this area here is going to be filled up with this laminate flooring. Here is the area that we're going to start. Layout is very important. When you look at the directions here, and I'm a big person that likes to look at the directions because all laminate flooring is a little bit different. This one, the best method is to start at a one side of the room and work left to right. The first step before you start actually laying anything is you want to clean up the area, vacuum, and then this is the underlayment that was chosen to use. So you put this down first, make sure it's nice and square in the room. This one, as you can see, has the blue plastic black backing with like a white strip, and that white strip is a piece that kind of double-sided sticky tape. You take off the white piece and stick it onto the other that overlaps, like I'm doing here, making sure everything's nice and smooth. Then once you roll out a couple rolls of this, you'll be able to start your flooring. The first row is usually the one that takes the longest. You want to make sure it's nice and square and all the spacers are against the wall. And those vents I need to cut out before we actually get started too, so that took a little bit of time to mark those and cut them. It was kind of nice because it was in between two boards, and so the cut was nice and neat. One thing to think about before you get started is every board has a certain pattern, and you want to make sure those patterns don't are not next to each other when you're installing the floor. And you'll see once you open the packages. So like I said, the first row is usually the longest one. Probably actually the first maybe 4 to 5 rows, because the floor really likes to move at that point. I'm going to be cutting these boards. While we're cutting, I'm making some marks on these pieces of wood. These are going to be the starts of the next few rows. And it's recommended that you kind of stagger the pieces. You never want to have two of seams right next to each other. In this application, which you can see here, I've staggered them. And you don't want to have a seam within 12 inches of endpoint to endpoint. And this is where it starts to start going faster. We're on the 3rd row now. What's nice about this floor is once you get going, you kind of get a routine and a rhythm going, and you can just start installing. So what's nice about this floor is that it's designed to interlock with each other, and so there's grooves and joints that allow the board, once you hit it in place with the mallet, that it won't come apart. And this one's really nice too because it interlocks very well, and it's well made. And as you can see, you start from the left to right, and you kind of have a stair-step process going, and it actually installs pretty quick. One thing to think about when you're doing this, I should have mentioned it before, is be careful when you're tapping. Sometimes if you don't have the block on the board, then it could slip and damage the board. So when you're going through your house and you have doors like this, you got to trim off the bottom of the door jamb trim so you can actually have the laminate flooring go underneath it. And so what I did was I put blue tape, because I'm a kind of a blue tape guy, where you want to make sure anything that you don't want scratched is protected. And this is just showing you, hey, this is what the board looks like underneath the door trim. I'm just double checking to make sure I cut it right too. I wouldn't worry about cleaning up until you get them all cut up. And I'm just cutting the other doorway trim out of the way here. There is one right where I'm working on the inside of the closet, a vertical that I may have to cut later on, as you can see in the next video here. If you scrape anything, vacuum, lay down some more underlayment here to get ready for this other section of the laminate flooring. All this floor took about a week to install. This is minus any trim work. So this is actually the second day. So here's all the underlayment down, nice and neat around the edges and everything. Getting ready for the install of the floor. So after underlayment is installed, I can install these boards. I recommend using a permanent marker. It's the only thing I found that could stick to the surface of the laminate flooring, just because that laminate is such a hard surface. And oftentimes you can slide the pieces in and then kind of tilt the end piece into the next piece and slide against that edge. It's kind of a really slick setup. Oftentimes the going around the doors take a little longer than the field areas, just because, you know, the cuts. I use a jigsaw and then also a chop saw to do the cuts. Jigsaw for, obviously, you know, the little intricate pieces like this. There is just everything sliding into place here. It goes right underneath the door jamb that we cut before. And then this, you want to make sure the seam is in the right location. This board went in really good. Just special note, these drywall corners are the bullnose, and so I actually cut each corner with kind of a slight curve to it, so it actually fit really good. And like I said before, the field area goes pretty quick compared to, you know, cutting around the doors and stuff. And just keep in mind to make sure when you're tapping to hold the black block firmly onto the laminate, and then hit it firmly with this tap hammer. The Z-bar is used for those tight spaces. All right, so in a little bit, I'm going to be showing you the Z-bar. And this is the Z-bar. There's a flat end that goes against the wall there. And then part of the video got cut off. I apologize. And then you use your mallet and you hit it against the wall and it squishes together. Here's an example of you know, tapping the board. What happens? And there it is. Oh, and here's a new spot that we're doing. We laid down the underlayment there and started doing the wood. I recommend having another person with you. Even if it's somebody that just does cuts, it's really helpful. Like I said before, just be careful of the pattern of the boards. We noticed that there was an ongoing pattern, and we tried not to get the patterns next to each other. All right, so we're just finishing up the last bit of this room. There is a vent at this location, and by that door, there's a funny little area. And here's the spacers there. Vent. This is the closet that I had to kind of do twice. I installed, and then I had to pick it up and then reinstall it after putting the laminate down. I think the floor turned out really nice in this area. Here's a hallway that was on the other side of that closet that I showed you earlier. This was, I think this hallway took about 2 or 3 hours to do, just because of all the little doors and areas that I had to do some fancy cutting and maneuvering of the wood, the laminate flooring. Here's another area that we're working on. The nice thing about the laminate flooring is that when you move your stuff around in the room, like you see in the background, there's stuff over there, and then once you're done with the laminate flooring, you can move the stuff onto laminate flooring and keep on working the room. It's really nice. This part went actually fairly quickly. There's a couple parts that you're going to be seeing here pretty soon that are kind of like a 45-degree area right there in the. You want to set your chop saw for the degree. And so I got the angle right, and then now I'm making a kind of a cardboard template to go right into that corner. Took a little bit, a couple tries to do it, but it turned out pretty good. And then we're installing the rest of the flooring in this area. Which actually went pretty good. This little piece I was a little worried about it, but it turned out to be less of a pain than I expected. Went really good. And overall, this floor went really well. And then there's me using the Z-bar again to put it in. And then we're installing the rest of the laminate flooring in this area, moving items out of our way as we go. Here's the finished product. Sorry about the color changes throughout this last part of the video. It was relatively dark, and I wasn't able to see everything. There's the first area where we started. As you can see, you can't even tell where we started. Looks really good. There's the kitchen area, which I had to do a couple different fancy maneuvers in there. Well, I hope that you learned something from this video and how to install laminate flooring. Thank you so much for spending the last couple minutes reviewing and looking over this video. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and if you have any questions, feel free to give comments below. I'm sure I'm going to be doing another laminate flooring install later on, and I'll upload that video as I do. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful and great day.